Good morning, happy Monday, everybody. I haven't got permission to play the Happy Mondays, but I have got permission to play Hello Operator. So hope you enjoy Animalize, which is a cracking song by these folks. And then we'll talk about grief.
Been at the cage for far too long, but don't it amaze you what's beyond it? Show me a razor crown, slip me between the bars, out to the woods with you. I'm sure you need to have more. You do me like an animal, kissing like a predator. Give me your electric eye and do me like an animal. You make me feel like, all of this frustration's got me shedding skin to know you're drooling like a Pavlov dog in the fireflies under the moon mirage. We are the freaks tonight. I'm sure you need to let go and do me like an animal. You're kissing like a predator. Give me your electric eye and do me like an animal. You make me feel like,
Thanks for coming today.
Are they all right?
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Nice video, I like that. So, happy Monday, everybody. We're going to talk about grief. I'm going to talk about grief, but if you're there as well, feel free to submit some comments if you wish. So just before I do, I want to trail tonight's show with Simon Carrigan, who he's getting his bambinis out. You can't really get bambinis out quietly, can you? Sorry. Yeah, Simon Carrigan is going to talk about creativity in recovery from mental health and addiction issues. So hopefully really interesting and inspiring chat. and do tune in 6:30 tonight for that. So grief, what's grief? Do you know what grief is, Timmy?
Well, when you feel sorry for, or feel sad when something's gone.
When you feel sad for something's gone. Good answer. Yeah, so it isn't just when somebody's died. It can be any significant loss. So it could be the death of a human, it could be a death of a pet, it could be the loss of a job or a lifestyle, it could be the loss of your youth, your athletic ability, your hair, it could be loss of anything really that matters to you. And I'm thinking that with this coronavirus and lockdown situation, there's a lot of losses going on. There's lots of things that we had before, maybe that we took for granted, that we don't have anymore. So, for example, our freedom to go out and do what we want, when we want. Our job, we may have lost permanently or temporarily. We may define ourselves by what we do for a living. And if that's gone, that's part of our identity that's gone. We may be mourning the loss of seeing our friends and family and touching them. We're social creatures. We need that social interaction. We need that physical touch. And even things like our favourite food, our takeaways, our favourite restaurant, you know, we're missing that because of the pandemic. So we can grieve it. We can mourn all of that stuff. So you may or may not have heard of the 5 stages of grieving, which were in a seminal book called On Grief and Grieving, which was written by Elizabeth Kübler-Ross and David Kessler quite some time ago now, but it's still a model that's used frequently today. It's kind of up there as the model for grief. And I'm not saying it's 100% right, and it may not be 100% right applying to you in this pandemic situation, but I thought it was quite interesting to revisit it, these 5 stages of grief, and what they mean for when somebody's died, but also what they mean for some situation like this pandemic with the things that we've lost. So the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. So if we work through those first 4 stages of grief, we can get to some healing and acceptance at the end. So as I briefly talk through these 5 stages of grief this morning, see if you can apply these to a situation where you've perhaps lost someone who's close to you, but also see if you can see how it applies to you during this pandemic, the grieving and mourning that's happening for you right now. Or maybe you've been through it over the past 3 weeks and you've reached acceptance already. So the first stage is denial. And this is where the world becomes overwhelming. It makes no sense. We're in shock. We're in denial. We go numb. This isn't happening, or this is not going to happen to me. With the pandemic, you might be thinking, "Oh no, it won't reach the UK, or if it does, it won't be serious. We won't have to have lockdown. It won't affect me or any of my loved ones." And we might wonder in this stage how we're going to go on, if we're going to go on, why are we going to go on? But the grief is only slightly acknowledged. We only let in as much as we feel able to handle. And it's kind of the psyche's defense mechanism, so that we don't get totally overwhelmed. We only let a little bit of that grief in. So that's the first stage, denial. The second stage is anger. And I know a lot of people are feeling anger at the moment. I'm hearing a lot of people being angry at the people around them, especially targeted at young people quite often, who aren't following the 2-meter distancing rules. They're thinking that they are bulletproof. I know I did when I was in my 20s, abused my body, thought I was bulletproof. And now these people are thinking, "Oh, I won't get it, or if I do, I'll be fine," rather than thinking less selfishly, being more compassionate for the people around them that they might pass it on to if that happens. So generally with anger, the second stage of grief, we might be angry with the person who's died. We might be angry with God if we have a God. We might be angry with whoever we blame for starting this thing off. So we might be angry with China. at this moment in time. And you could say that this anger is valid. It's part of the grieving. It is part of the grieving process, and it's really important that we feel this anger, we acknowledge it, and we express it in a safe way, preferably not by hitting out at those around us or shouting at the teenagers who are walking 10 abreast on the pavement towards us. So yeah, healthy expression of that anger, acknowledgement of it. Underneath that anger, there is likely to be another deeper emotion. Quite often it's fear. So yeah, we're angry at those teenagers because we're fearful of catching the virus, or we're fearful that they will pass it on to our elderly relatives, for example. So yeah, we're fearful that they are endangering us or others. So once we've got through the anger phase, the third phase is bargaining, and that's when we try and make a deal with this event that's happening, which is out of our control. We might want our lives to go back to how they were before. We might make promises and bargains to ourselves, or to our God if we have one, or to the person who's dying, or the virus, that if I change my ways, if I become different, if I can live my life differently, then I will do whatever I can to stop this thing happening, to stop this person dying, to stop this virus spreading, to stop myself or my relatives getting ill. We might blame ourselves, criticize ourselves for not having done something and wish we'd done something differently in order to prevent the loss of this person or reduce the risk of getting ill. And it's a kind of, yeah, it's bargaining. It's, oh, please let this not be happening. I will do whatever it takes to not feel the pain of this grief and this loss. And then the fourth stage is depression. And this is where we begin to feel really empty. We've let more of the grief in. We're truly mourning. We feel depressed. We feel like darkness is upon us. And we feel that this feeling might go on forever. Now, this isn't a sign of mental illness. This isn't clinical depression. This is a totally valid, normal, appropriate response to grief. It's part of the healing process. We might be feeling, is there any point going on? Sometimes we might feel suicidal. We might have suicidal ideation, especially if it's something really serious that's happening. We've lost seeing, oh, there's Marcus Rashford. He's harmless, look. My favourite male. You thought he was injured. He's actually okay. Yeah, so depression is a totally normal, appropriate stage of the grieving process. And then if we've worked through all those four stages, the fifth stage of grief for someone who's died, or loss of a job, or this virus situation, whatever it is acceptance. And this isn't about feeling fine about the loss and saying, yeah, it's fine, totally over it, not a problem. It's about accepting it as the new reality and acknowledging that this is the new permanent state of affairs, or this is the state of affairs for however long this virus is going to last. So, yeah, with someone who's died, it's getting to that point of, yeah, they're not coming back. I acknowledge that that person has gone, that job has gone, whatever it is. With the virus, it's, yeah, okay, this is happening. I'm totally powerless to do anything about it. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown. I'm just acknowledging that, okay, I'm showing equanimity, like that meditation from last week. This is how things are. So we try to go on living without that person, without that job, without our freedom to go outside during the virus lockdown. And we're gradually adapting to this new way of being. And it may mean, acceptance might look different for different people. It may just mean for you that you have more good days than bad days. You still have some days where you're really struggling with being in lockdown, in isolation, with anxiety, fear about the future. But you also have more good days than that, where you're actually feeling, actually, there's a lot of benefits to this, and I can cope with it. And at this time, you can start to make new connections. You can make new relationships. You can develop new ways of being. You can connect with people in different ways through, video calling, stuff like this, groups online, live gigs, whatever's floating your boat. And we may begin to open up and live again, giving ourselves permission. We've given grief enough time. Sometimes it can take years to go through a grieving process until you reach acceptance. Sometimes it could be a matter of hours. I know for me, 3 weeks ago, I went through this grieving process, and it was like it was on speed. It was in a space of 24 hours. I think I went through all of these 5 stages, and maybe I'll revisit them. Maybe there's another stage, another cycle of grief for me to go through around this. But at the moment, I'm feeling pretty accepting. I wonder how you're feeling. Let me know. So yeah, let's allow time for the whole grieving process before you get to acceptance, and you will get there, and we will all get through this. I hope you're able to acknowledge the more and mourn the grief of the losses that this situation is bringing for you. I hope you can treat yourself and those around you with loving compassion as you go through this process. Coronavirus spreads like wildfire, and there's nothing we can do about it. But loving compassion also spreads. It is also contagious. Be more Rennie. Here we go. Love spreads. So let's spread the love. Let's spread the compassion for yourself and for others as we go through this 5 stages of grief with the pandemic, the lockdown, the virus crisis. And yeah, that's it. If you've got any questions, comments, thoughts on grieving, whether you are grieving at the moment, whether you feel you've already gone through the 5 stages and you are now at acceptance, let me know. I'd be interested to see how you're navigating it, whether you need any support navigating it. I could do that. I can offer you some free coaching calls, 15 minutes. And then if we feel you want to work together beyond that, we can do so. So there we go. There's my little get on Pathlight Limited on Facebook and book in a slot, or just send me a message or an email, and we can book some time in if you require some support on grieving or on anything that's going on in your life at the minute. If you just want some support, well-being checkup, anything around your mental health or holistic well-being that you're struggling with, or just need a little bit of support or someone to chat to, this is where to come. So hope you have a great day. It is glorious here. I hope you take the opportunity to get your vitamin D. It is vitamin D, isn't it, that you get from the sun? Your daily fix, your daily exercise. I've been speaking to a few people recently who are just staying in constantly, not going out, can't be bothered. Maybe they're in the depression stage of the grieving process, and that can be the start of a downward spiral, lacking motivation, not going outside, not having a structure, a routine to your day, not doing stuff that brings you joy. That can start you going down that cycle. So I do encourage you very strongly to get outside, get some exercise, get some fresh air, get some sunshine, do some stuff that you enjoy and that bring you some joy and happiness. And enjoy the day. 6:30 back here for Simon Carrigan, talking about how creativity has helped him on the recovery process through mental illness and addiction issues. So back here at 6:30, have a great day, enjoy the sunshine, and toodaloo.